G'day there guys, not actually funny and uses deadpan humor as a crutch here. Back at it again with another episode of r/Am I the A-hole. Now if you love this content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the Barbie, and enjoy the video. Posted by user ThrowRA19181, titled, Am I the A-hole for telling my ex's children that they're not mine and to back off? Now, I got with my ex when I was 21 and he was 32. It was unhealthy, but I had problems going on at the time. He had 2 children who at the time were 2 and 5 months, Amy and Nina. Biological mother wasn't involved with the children, and I was never told why. I raised the children as my own for ages. I did everything for them until they were 12 and almost 11 before I separated from my ex. I initially considered trying to remain in their lives, but it was difficult, and I wanted nothing to do with him. It's been 14 years since. I have a family. My youngest is 5 now, and my stepchildren have children. I have to be honest, I loved my ex's children, but I don't regret what I had to do. I guess my ex never told his children that I wasn't the woman who gave birth to them, because not too long ago, Amy reached out to me to tell me that I owed them, and she resented me for leaving them with their bat-crap dad, and that they wanted to meet up. I met up and explained to Amy and Nina that I was only the stepmother, and they didn't believe me at all, which led to some tears and both of them reaching out to my stepchildren to tell them that they're siblings. Amy posted on my Facebook wall, messaged my husband, posted pictures of my youngest, 5, saying that how they want to meet their sibling. It got crazy. Look, I tried to sympathize, but they're adults now. I messaged them saying I wanted nothing to do with both of them and that they need to back off, especially as I'm not their birth mother. My husband thinks I'm a little harsh because they clearly idolized me. They still haven't stopped calling me. Am I the a-hole? This is a hard one to judge. I don't really want to touch the topic all too much because there's a lot more going on here and there's a lot of denial going on many sides and a lot of covering up the facts by the father as well, it looks like. I'm just going to leave it at everyone sucks here. Some suck more than others. This is a really sticky situation, and I personally would not want to be in the middle of this. Everyone sucks here. Wow, what a horrible situation. Those poor young ladies. How could it have gotten to this that they don't even know who their birth mother is? Totally screwed up. You're not their biological mother, so you don't owe them anything. However, you did help to create this situation. You both clearly were never open with them about what had gone on before. Honestly, you can walk away from this, but I hope you will find it in you to be a better human and try to help them to understand what is and has gone on. Your ex must be bat-winged crazy, alright? This isn't okay. DNA and the knowledge you aren't their mother doesn't change the fact that you're their mum. In their hearts and identity, you're the one who was mum forever. Abandoning these girls just because they're adults and not biologically yours is cold. That's not why. It's because of their totally out-of-line reaction upon learning this. First of all, she doesn't owe them anything. Second of all, she conceded to their demands of meeting, and instead of talking it out, they claimed they were OP's kids and quite literally accused her of lying. Maybe there could be a relationship if they had bothered listening, but they didn't. Because she's their mum. She did lie their entire lives. You're defending that at no point in over 18 years, she couldn't clarify she's their mum, but not their mother, and then expect them not to be attached and bonded in that way. That's just mean. That wasn't her job. They had agreed to tell them. They had agreed he would tell them. She had no way to contact them outside of him because she had no legal right to them. She was their mother, yes. Then she told them that she didn't give birth to them, and they accused her of lying, because of his failure as a parent. They crossed all the lines, and then, after they crossed every conceivable line and harassed her and her family, she told them not to contact her. If they were that sure, they could have asked for a DNA test. They didn't. And guess what? OP never owed them anything. Even if she gave birth to them, they're over 18. The things she would have owed them had that been the case ended at 18. OP didn't cross the lines. They did. And after all the boundary stomping, including contacting her husband and posting pictures of her child on the internet, She broke contact, which is fair. As someone with a multi-blended family who places strong value on relationships, not DNA, I respectfully agree to disagree. OP was taken advantage of from the start. She was basically preyed upon by a much older man who wanted a mummy for his 2 babies. She was 21. I'll bet she ran a whole household for 4 people for a decade. Leaving was her only way out of what was essentially mummy slavery. Oh, this is hard. Everyone sucks here. So you cut off contact with them just because you didn't want anything to do with your ex anymore? They didn't do anything, and it's completely understandable why they were so hurt and confused. That being said though, I don't think it was right of them to say that you owed them, and the harassment that came afterwards was out of line. From their perspective, the OP does owe them. She and her ex lied by omission, or outright lied and made these girls believe she was the bio mum. From the outside looking in, this looks just like the stories of a-hole parents who walk out on their kids and lie and try to pretend they don't exist. She owes them proof she isn't their bio mum because they won't heal otherwise, and she is just as responsible for the situation as her ex. Posted by user ThrowRA I'm 68, titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my boyfriend not to spit in our food?" We're currently not speaking because of this issue, since I find it gross and my boyfriend can't see my problem with it. I do most of the cooking in our relationship, which I'm fine with. However, occasionally my boyfriend will want to do some cooking together or do some baking. We do a lot of activities together, especially now we're both home a lot more. The one thing I cannot stand is a habit he has when it comes to food. If my boyfriend thinks something is too dry or needs a better consistency, he will use his own spit and put it into the food. For example, the other day we were icing homemade cookies, and I caught him thinning out the icing mixture by spitting inside the bowl and mixing it in. This has been an issue for some time, so he tries to hide it whenever he does it from me. But every time I catch him, I just find it gross. His reply is to shrug and just tell me that I get more of his saliva in my mouth when we kiss anyway, so it shouldn't be a big deal and makes literally no difference. I've pleaded with him to use water, but he says that the texture just isn't the same, and has pointed out that if I can't tell the texture is different, surely it doesn't matter that it's not water anyway. I know that in a way he's right, and it's not like I complain about his spit when we make out, but something about it being mixed with food just grosses me out. Am I the a-hole for not wanting my boyfriend to spit in our food when we cook together? Edit. My boyfriend doesn't cook regularly, so he isn't serving this to anyone but me and himself. He has made disgusting comments about serving staff spitting in customers' food before, so I know he finds other people's spit unhygienic. Yeah, I want to crawl out of my skin reading this story, I'm not gonna lie. That's really disgusting from the boyfriend. You know, water doesn't have enzymes that break down the food, bacteria, everything else in it that could go wrong in the food. And just from a cultural standpoint, we don't have a culture of spitting in people's food and then being cool with eating it, much like his example he's pointed out there. Opie, you're not the a-hole for not wanting your boyfriend to spit in your food when you cook together. That's just disgusting on his part, and he really, really needs to stop doing that. I mean, I don't think not the a-hole is an adequate way to express the absolute horror I am feeling on your behalf right now. I wish I could upload a selfie so you could see the degree of not the a-holeness I feel written all over my face. Your boyfriend is disgusting. The fudging horror, right? You're correct, not the a-hole doesn't adequately express it. I actually screamed out loud, and my incredibly into cooking boyfriend came running in and went visibly white when I told him what I had been reading. I threw up in my mouth. Please never let him serve anyone else food he makes. Or for the love of God, tell him first. Please tell them. Not the a-hole. So gross. Full disclosure, I didn't make it past spit in the frosting. I don't even understand at what point in life did he start doing this. Did he just one day wake up and think, oh hey, you know what, saliva's a good substitute for water? Not only is he the a-hole, he's also pretty stupid. He should stop drinking water and just survive on swallowing saliva. Should make beverages without using water. He should shower and wash with it as well since he thinks it's an adequate substitute. What a tool. And I don't get OP either. How is any reasonable human okay with this? Posted by user Comprehensive Ad 2519, titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to adopt my daughter's bio kid because it would sacrifice my new lifestyle? Throwaway and title sounds bad. This was last year. I have a 25-year-old adult daughter who got pregnant and decided to keep the child. I told her to get an abortion. I am my daughter's father. On Christmas last year, my daughter called me and told her I have to adopt her child as she can't take care of it because of college. I told her no, I don't want to adopt a child and have another 18 years of my life wasted. My daughter became angry at me for not caring about my grandchildren. I told her I won't sacrifice my lifestyle because of her mistake. I then told her she can deal with the consequences of having the child herself. My daughter told me she won't talk to me unless I adopt her kid. It's been over a year now, and my daughter has not talked to me. So now I'm wondering if I'm an a-hole. So am I the a-hole for refusing to adopt my daughter's biological kid because it would sacrifice my new lifestyle? A lot of people are going to have a lot of different opinions on this one, that's for sure, because everyone's family dynamics and way they're going to look after their kids is completely different. So are their living scenarios and their ability to do this? Personally, I'm of the thought that I don't blame him for turning that down. He shouldn't be held at gunpoint to adopt his daughter's kid just because she can't look after it because she's still got the rest of university to do. That's kind of disgusting on her half to do that. I mean, you should be able to look after yourself and the kid while still studying. A lot of people do it and continue to do it, and just because there's a possibility you can hand it off to your parent doesn't mean they should take the child. On the other hand, solely because it's going to sacrifice his new lifestyle, that's a kind of a dickhead thing to say, because a kid to me is worth more than a lifestyle, but I can understand him not wanting to raise another kid, and not everyone wants to go through that again. So for that reason, I'm just gonna say everyone sucks here, it's a given. Everyone sucks here. Your daughter is the primary a-hole, but referring to the child as another 18 years wasted and a mistake is probably one of the worst things you could say to your own child. Sounds toxic. To be honest, you're a downright terrible person if you give birth to a kid you refuse to abort or to raise, and then try to force someone else to raise them while using your relationship as leverage. I completely agree, but I do get a lot more sympathetic to her when the father casually implies that she is a mistake and a waste. I mean, a lot of her crappy behavior could have been caused by being raised like that. The only person I feel truly sorry for is the baby. Perhaps I'm just a bit more sympathetic to the father, even though he could have used better words because her upbringing doesn't excuse the daughter's actions and intentionally giving birth to a kid that they won't take responsibility for. That's being negligent for a whole person. I don't excuse the daughter, but I'm not sympathetic to the father at all. Any parent that implies the child is a waste of time is a huge a-hole in my opinion. Not the a-hole for not adopting the child. However, you are an a-hole for telling an adult woman to terminate her pregnancy. You're an a-hole for implying that the 18 years it took to raise your daughter were wasted. I mean, in hindsight, it seems like the smart recommendation since the adult woman is now trying to get rid of her child. Harsh, but I'll allow it. OP says, I told her to get an abortion because I know she won't be able to handle the kid. I also know that putting the kid up for adoption is a painful process. I did not want my daughter to suffer or have those feelings, which is the reason why I told my daughter to get an abortion. But you did also tell her that you don't want to waste another 18 years of your life, implying that raising her was a waste of 18 years too. A-hole comment on your part. Everyone sucks here because you aren't blameless. Posted by user xrappy schmila, titled, Am I the a-hole for not giving my boyfriend's sister my clothes and accessories? So, I'm a huge fashion freak, and therefore have crap loads of clothing and various accessories. My family always inclined towards slow fashion, so even now I try to buy either garments, which I'm sure will last me for a couple of years, or thrifted ones. I also learned to sew so I could make customized clothes or fix up those that weren't exactly my cuppa. My boyfriend's sister has some upcoming business-related events and wanted to borrow some of my clothes as her styles don't exactly fall in a business category. I thought she would like some less expensive ones, but she automatically and quite nonchalantly ventured to grab some of my favorite and most expensive pieces. I told her I'd not lend her those as she didn't know how to care about silk or cashmere, and I wouldn't let her have my great-grandfather watches. Instead, I offered her some less care-demanding and not so valuable alternatives, but she refused them. She complained to my boyfriend, who is on her side, and keeps telling her I'm a snob and should allow her to try my clothes as we're all basically a family. It's been 2 weeks since that, and they still continue to nag me. At one point I asked her whether she would pay me if she somehow destroyed my clothes, and she said it was ridiculous, and in conclusion is even more angry. No, I don't think you're an a-hole for that. I think that she's careless from your description of it, and I wouldn't want cashmere destroyed like that, or expensive silks. Just because she's family doesn't mean you have to trust her with your prized possessions, and she should be honored to even be given the option of some of your clothes in the first place. Not everyone's willing to do that, and she sounds very entitled for doing so. So because of that, not the a-hole. You do not have to lend out expensive items if you aren't comfortable doing so. Accidents happen, and if the items aren't replaceable, that would make it uncomfortable. You also offered other items to her and she didn't want them. She may be a bit of a snob herself. Exactly. I had a roommate who called me materialistic because I cared about my stuff, which she liked to borrow and only sometimes asked permission beforehand. My first ever cashmere sweater disappeared within 2 weeks of getting it. Yes, that was a very big deal to me, and I found it waddled in a bowl directly under her bird's cage, covered in seeds, shells, feathers, and all manner of bird stuff. It was also snagged. When I complained, she shrugged it off and told me the real problem was that I was too invested in consumer culture. Truth, so was she. She just didn't want to have to pay for it or be held responsible for her own actions. Harsher truth, this wasn't about the sweater, it was about basic respect. Her opinion on the value of my clothes or the morality of my attachment to them wasn't relevant. Her complete lack of respect in taking my things and treating them like trash showed that she didn't care about how her actions made me feel. Harshest truth? You can't control how people think about you, but you can make decisions about your own self-worth. If my roommate wanted to think that I was materialistic because I didn't want my one luxury item ruined, there was nothing I could do about it. But I could inform her that all of my stuff was now off limits and that any further borrowing would not be tolerated. Setting boundaries not only preserved my clothing, it made me feel better because I was standing up for myself. Opie needs to refuse any loans to her boyfriend's sister because of her outsized sense of entitlement and lack of a sense of responsibility. Not to mention the ongoing harassment when Opie set perfectly reasonable boundaries. Opie may want to evaluate the way the boyfriend treats her overall if he's engaging in trying to bully and shame her for making a thoughtful and appropriate offer of help to his sister. If this is a one-off thing, then having a talk about how his comments and demands made Opie feel when she was offering to help in the only way that wasn't likely to cause her personal loss. If boyfriend understands that he needs to respect Opie's priorities, even when he doesn't necessarily share them, and that teaming up with others to make her feel bad is damaging to the trust in their relationship, then maybe things will be fine. I'm just not sure that boyfriend has it in him based on Opie's story. Not the a-hole. Pay attention here. Your boyfriend is clearly showing you where he's going to come down anytime you have a conflict with his family. This, proceed with caution, OP. This is setting an example of things to come. They're trying to force you into something that you're obviously uncomfortable with, trying to guilt you with the family is everything card. Parroting above, proceed with caution. Not the a-hole. Boyfriend has given you the tour of the factory where the red flags are made. I understand you not wanting to lend expensive clothes. To your boyfriend, he probably just thinks they're clothes. I know they're important to you. Boyfriend has taken his sister's side, instead of seeing you have offered an alternative. Her reply when you asked if she would pay for any damage caused is another red flag. You deserve better. Edit, what would be the next situation that boyfriend takes his family's side over yours, OP? Posted by user Snoo67735, titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to take in my teenage nephew after his dad died and mum, my sister, got hospitalized? Throwaway for obvious reasons, hope you can all understand. So, we live in a country right now that is not open to travel of any kind of any foreign country. I'm gonna guess Australia. So this is all happening to us without any support from our relatives abroad. Anyways, a very tragic thing happened to my sister's family this past year. Her husband passed away from a sudden ruptured brain aneurysm in January, and now she has contracted the coronavirus in late June. She's a nurse. Up until now, she's been looking after her son single-handedly. He's 13, so has been very capable of looking after himself, but is still a minor. About 2 weeks ago, my sister reported feeling worse and confirmed she had the virus. Things really degenerated over the past week, and she's now in the hospital and placed in an induced coma, and her health keeps getting worse. As a result, her son has no legal guardian, and it's up to me and my wife if we could take him in. The issue is this. My wife absolutely despises my nephew. Around 5 years ago, he stayed with us for a weekend, and he broke my wife's cat's tail by pulling her around. This was an elderly cat that later had to be put down due to ongoing injuries. My wife, as a result, has cut off my sister, her husband, and my nephew completely, although I still have contact with them. So now I have raised the responsibility of taking in my nephew until my sister gets better, but my wife is 100% against it, even saying that if I do, then that's the end of our marriage. I have raised other options, like I move in with him, but my wife suffers from anxiety and mentioned that if I left her now, I would be putting her in a vulnerable state where she could fall into depression. She suffers from depression during stressful times. Yeah, I'm sure he does too, mate. I've made the choice to put my wife first and let my nephew be taken in by state social workers for the time being. The issue is our family abroad has heard of the situation and deemed us heartless for letting my nephew go into state institutions, which are very poor quality in our country. I feel very guilty, but I also feel like I made the right choice, prioritizing my wife, whose health comes first for me. Am I the a-hole for making this choice? Edit, thanks for everyone's responses so far. I'll try my best to clarify a few things more. Is my wife sick? She has always struggled with mental health, which is why I was leaning towards protecting her. She has diagnosed borderline personality disorder and a long history with depression and anxiety. She does not get along with most of my family, which is why we live so far away from everyone else, except for my sister, of course. It is not her fault, but she does get a lot of anxiety when I'm gone, or with the rest of my family for a very long time. It is partly due to fights and bad blood in the past, but also because she's in a vulnerable state right now after having just lost her job a few weeks ago. I am worried about her ability to take care of herself if I were to suddenly pack up and stay with my nephew. How did the cat break its tail? Her cat was pretty old when it happened, around 13 to 14 years old. Nephew asked to trim the cat's nails after seeing my wife do it. Well, the cat was fine until she suddenly tried to run off. My nephew tried to pull her back like my wife showed him, but applied too much force and the wrong angle, grabbed tail instead of body, and her tail was broken. I was there, but it happened too quickly for me to do anything. The cat was put down about 2 months later because it stopped eating. Vet says ongoing pain from the tail was a leading cause. Wife blames nephew, but in my view, it was a pretty neutral situation. However, the cat's death was very, very difficult for her, and trauma lasts to this day. Is there other family/friends to help? Unfortunately not. Due to the pandemic, no one is able to fly in, and because of legal reasons, my sister's friends are not able to take him in even temporarily. The social workers said he would be placed with a nearby foster family just until my sister gets better. In that case, I could visit him often, but would not be able to stay with him overnight. This one I've had to record a few times because I get really angry talking about this one. Both OP and his wife make me really, really angry with refusing to look after this kid. They both suck, and I think there's a special place in hell for them not looking after this 13-year-old. who, through no fault of his own, has lost both of his parents, and no one else can look after him. Being put into the foster system is a really, really bad choice to make. If I was in this situation, I would tell the wife to suck it up, we need to look after this kid, you need to go get help and sort out your issues. I'm sorry. I'm not letting my sister's kid go into the foster system, and I know it's hard on you. He was 8 years old. He was 8 years old and it was a neutral situation. I can't blame him for that. So OP sucks for not being harder on it. The wife just sucks all around to me. Everyone sucks here. Your wife is the a-hole. There's a child out there, basically by himself, with the potential to lose both of his parents within a year of each other, and she is 100% not allowing you to help him, and is telling you if you do, your marriage will be over. That's insane to me. Edit, you're the a-hole too for being okay with any of this, and it's pathetic your wife needs to use you as a crutch for her anxiety and depression. Reasonable she wouldn't want to take in a kid, especially one that seemingly was responsible for her cat's demise. Completely unreasonable that she would guilt her husband after he offered a totally reasonable compromise to abandoning a child. She's definitely the bigger a-hole, but he's complicit. Reading the edit OP made, seemingly the 8-year-old boy grabbed the cat as he was instructed by the wife, but applied too much pressure. At 8, on his first try, with a cat that is running away. The cat died 2 months later from not eating due to pain in general, with the tail being the leading cause. I'm sorry, but this is no way the boy's fault. He asked to be included, she said yes. He made a slight error. She could have easily said no when the boy asked to help, or any other myriad of options. This is seemingly the reason the wife cut all contact with the family, and why she wants this boy to go into foster care. The wife is a massive a-hole, OP being less of an a-hole, but still one for seemingly letting everyone walk all over him. My assumption here is that the wife is one of those people who just makes it difficult for everyone, and the whole world is against her. I hope she stays in good health, because it looks like OP's family is gonna drop her like a brick if she ever needs help. Don't forget, it was after this accident that the wife decided OP shouldn't have any contact with his sister or their family. Oh, and she has terrible anxiety, but still taught an 8-year-old how to trim her elderly cat's nails, including how to grab the cat when it runs away. Yeah. And she can't be without her husband, except if she chooses his nephew, in which case she'll divorce him. Her anxiety sure is finicky. Info. So you can't move in with the nephew because she can't survive without you, but if you move him in, she will divorce you, move out, and survive without you? Smacks of manipulation and codependency, doesn't it? Borderline personality disorder ruins lives. It is 100% manipulation, lies, and drama. Please try to remember BPD is a spectrum. Some of us are awful, but some of us aren't manipulative, abusive liars. Everyone has the capacity to be awful, but demonizing an entire group of people because of the actions of an awful few is not okay. Before the BPDers are all abusers descend on me, I know people with BPD who are awful, and people with BPD who are not awful, and I know that it's an individual choice a person makes to be awful, or to get help and be better. Please stop stigmatizing all of us. My best friend has BPD, and he is the kindest, most empathetic person I know. He just struggles with boundaries and consequences. Something he works on in therapy and in everyday life and gets better at all the time. I met him before he was diagnosed too. You're the a-hole, and your wife also sucks. He was 8 when that happened. He could very well be a full orphan soon, and instead of taking him in, even on a temporary basis, you're casting him off because he hurt an animal when he was 8. I'm not saying animals don't matter, but a human life is potentially about to be dramatically altered forever, and you don't want to take in your nephew because your wife has a grudge with a child? Are you kidding? Both you and your wife are the a-hole because of this grudge you're holding over a very vulnerable young teenager. Maybe he can take care of himself, but can he really? It's not just about having an adult around for supervision. This kid needs somewhere safe to stay with people he is familiar with. Although I think you should take him in, unfortunately I feel like it'll be a crappy experience for him, knowing neither you nor your wife want to care for him. I keep thinking about the poor kid having to go to a house where he knows he isn't wanted when dealing with all this. It's heartbreaking. He's only 13, and he's lost his father, and his mother is in a serious condition, all over the past 6 months. On top of all of that, he's being sent away because his uncle and aunt hate him for an accident when he was a little kid? He's old enough to understand what's going on. My heart breaks for him. Call me heartless if you want, but if it was me in this situation, I would take the kid in a heartbeat and let the wife deal with the consequences. I feel like his health and well-being takes utmost importance in this situation, and that's just how I would do it. I know other people are different. Alright, and I think that's where we're going to leave today's episode, guys. I really do hope you enjoyed the content today. If you guys loved watching it as much as I loved making it, I would love for you to subscribe to the channel already if you haven't. Tell me what you thought of it down in the comments below, maybe like the video, who knows. I'd also like to take this time to thank my awesome Patreon and channel members. Without you guys, I don't know what I'd do. I'd probably be homeless on the streets of Ireland, crying, Irish dancing all over town. It would just be a mess. But no, for real, you guys are up on the screen now. Thank each and every one of you guys. And if you personally want to join the club yourself, there are links down in the description below. There's also the join button next to the subscribe button. Small monthly fee, but hey, it goes a long way to help me create more awesome content. Well, with that said, guys, I hope you do have a lovely day, night, sleep, evening, day at work, day at school, whatever you're up to. I hope you keep awesome today. You're looking amazing, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.